नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल, राम राम सा खम्बाणी, वणक्कम, प्रणाम। आप सभी का ऑल्टरनेट मीडिया में फिर से स्वागत है। आफ्टर अ स्मॉल ब्रेक, सब मेरे से पूछ रहे थे, वेयर इज राव सर गॉन, सो मेनी थिंग्स हैपनिंग। धनकर जी gave a big jolt to the entire nation, and Trump is, every day giving popcorn moments to all of us. So I was like, okay, let's get started and let's do a show because a lot of things are happening parallelly in India. A very warm welcome on the show, Periana.
Namaste, Gayatri ji, and warm namaskar to all your audiences. It's good to be back.
जी, Periana,
Though the times we live in are very tense, like you said, we are living in really tense times, but it's good to be back.
जी, पेरियाना, बहुत कुछ हुआ है since you were gone. A lot of things happened. The biggest jolt came from Jagdeep Dhankar. We were not expecting that. So, पहला और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन जो मैं आज पूछूंगी वो है कि क्या मोदी गवर्नमेंट को खतरा है? Is Modi government at risk of fall?
This year, I said that this is an on and off year. This is a mixed year for India with some big ups as well as some big downs. But the thing is, overall, this is a pretty decent year for India. But from a long-term perspective, India is going to rise. But there will be some challenges during this year, internally as well as externally. But one thing I can say confidently is these are just temporary setbacks. These are not really like change of direction or epo making moments basically. So whatever you refer to, say Dhankarji giving a big jolt to the BJP government and basically shaking Indian politics, and then all this talk about some of the allies that BJP government depends on deserting the government possibly and joining hands with the INDA coalition and Rahul Gandhi becoming possibly prime minister. All these things, I do not really think that any of this will come to fruition. And contrary to what we see on the surface, if we look at the chart of Rahul Gandhi, the period June 2023 till June 2024 was his best period in life. That was his best year. That was the time he had the best chance of being India's prime minister. And because his chart itself doesn't really have the potential to be prime minister or a really big power, basically. His chart is a weak chart. It's basically a chart of somebody born with Raj Yoga and basically just giving it up or losing it or destroying it, basically. It's like Rajabhanga Yoga chart. It's not a Raj Yoga chart. So, first of all, based on Sri Rahul Gandhi's chart, it's extremely likely, almost 100% sure, that he will never become India's prime minister. That is one factor. Other factor is looking at the chart of BJP. There are some challenges during this period, but Congress is doing worse. And also, I said in the second half of this year, towards the end of this year, there'll be some problems and some weakness for Narendra Modi ji and BJP. But I do expect that opposition will be in a worse position by that time. See, when they try to basically play this surrender Narendra drama, basically try to pitch the Operation Sindoor in a negative light and create this euphoria that Rahul Gandhi is a visionary leader. But the thing is, my assessment based on his chart and based on how the next year is for him. See, as I said, June 2023 to June 2024 is his best time. But because his chart did not have potential, he just came close and fell short. And June 2024 till June 2025 is slightly worse, but still a decent time for him. And June 2025 till June 2026 is not a good time for him. This is a time when he will make some self goals, and this is a time when he will basically shoot himself in the foot, and some of the big plays that he will make will utterly fail. So don't basically be deceived by the appearances. On the surface, it may look like Rahul Gandhi is gaining some momentum and Modi ji is losing some momentum. But my strong expectation based on all the relevant chart, BJP, Congress, Modi ji and Rahul Gandhi, my expectation is that Modi ji will be a little weak towards the end of this year, but Rahul Gandhi will be even weaker. Some of this surrender Narendra drama and basically some of the statements against our military and some of the criticism of our military successes, and this insistence on how many jets were down and all this is not going to play well with the population of the country. Basically, most of the people, of course, some people will buy it, but majority of the people will see through this, and they will see this as anti-patriotic. And also, he is banking on Trump. When Trump says Indian economy is dead, he's basically saying, "Oh yeah, Trump is right. Indian economy is dead." The thing is, it is true that there are people who are still suffering. There are people who are still in poverty. The wealth gap is throughout the world. It is increasing over the last few decades, and same in India. But the thing is, it is undeniable fact that in general the majority of population has been lifted up, and people can see it around them. So this, moreover, banking on Trump and basically going with him is a disaster, because he's going to change his tune when basically it's convenient. He will say Indian economy is dead, but the thing is, a few months later, after India plays a tough negotiating game, and if they finally have a trade deal, he will say, "Oh, Modi is a visionary." And moreover, if Modi arranges for some nice public meet with Trump, even in India or US, lot of audience and everybody clapping, he will just say, "Oh, Modi is great. India is great. India is greatest civilization, biggest democracy." See, Trump can say this person is the worst person in the world, and 5 days later he can say he's the best person in the world. And his base in US, MAGA, will lap it up. They don't really think through all the details. So the thing is, going along with Trump is basically a disaster, because he will go to the end of the cliff and he will return, and then you will just fall into the cliff. So this was a really dumb thing. What he said, "Oh yeah, Indian economy is dead," this is really a dumb thing. So all these things, even though people may feel uncomfortable right now and think that maybe he's gaining momentum and maybe Modi ji is losing the narrative war, I'm very confident that this will not play out that way. People will basically get a sense of more normalcy, a better equilibrium just in a few months, because this is a very April to August 2025 is a very chaotic and unstable period. So if you basically flow with things as they're happening in this period, you may say really crazy things. You may put yourself in a corner. So things are going to be a little more normal and stable soon. And Rahul Gandhi's line of attack is not going to basically fly with Indian audience. So, but overall, astrologically speaking, I don't see him gaining any ground. I don't see him becoming prime minister at all. I don't see him gaining any ground. On the other hand, I expect trouble for opposition. So I will not be surprised, actually, in spite of all this talk that Chandrababu Naidu ji may leave NDA, or in BJP you may see the coalition partners leaving. Instead, what you may see towards the end of this year, in the last 3 months of the year, 3-4 months of the year, is actually NDA grows. More partners will join NDA. Basically, it is possible that the INDA alliance may actually become weaker. They may lose some coalition partners rather than NDA losing. So overall, my overall assessment is, in the next few months, next couple of months, there will be some tension, and people will feel like BJP is on some unsolid footing. Basically, there is some tension to the BJP government, but in the end, they will survive strong. They will basically be fine, and they may even become stronger. On the other hand, Rahul Gandhi's coalition will become weaker, and I will not be surprised, given that this year is a bad year for him right now, because he is the unquestioned leader of the party. Everybody will just go along. But once his strategy backfires, once it becomes clear that perhaps in the coming few election cycles, or in general, basically in the opinion polls, etc., when it is crystal clear that his strategy has backfired and he hasn't basically weakened the BJP government narrative, but his narrative is actually the one that did not gel with people, then there may be some opposition to him within his party. Some Congress leaders may question his leadership, and there may be some calls to replace him with somebody else. So in general, I see more tension for Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party in the next 1 year or so, rather than to Modi ji and BJP. But having said that, I do expect that there will be some tension, not only politically, but even otherwise. For example, the geopolitical 2025 and 2026 are a really crazy time for the world. These are the time when unexpected things, chaotic things will happen, and the stage will be set for a future war in 2030, 2031 time frame. So the delicate equilibrium that the world was somehow maintaining for decades will be just messed up. It will be unwisely messed up in this period, and there will be repercussions. And I was expecting in the second half of this year, from late July onwards, I was expecting the economy to do weak. Thankfully, so far economy seems to be, Indian economy as well as US economy and world economy seems to be holding out pretty well. So hopefully that's the case. But theoretically, just based on astrological factors, it is still conceivable that in the next few months there'll be some big shocks to the world economy. So obviously, if there are shocks to the world economy, India will also suffer because of it. So all these things, and then this is a time. See, Jupiter, Brahaspati, Guru Graha is in Atichara right now. Planets are moving at variable speeds, and when a planet is in Atichar, it's basically moving faster than normal for it. So if I'm sitting still and focusing on something, I can put my mind to it and do a good job. But if I'm just moving fast and trying to do something, I cannot focus. Whether you're eating or whether you're reading or whether you're thinking of something, when you are moving very fast, you can't really focus. Similarly, a planet in Atjara, his job will not be done perfectly. It will be basically half done. And Jupiter is personification of the Dhishakti in individuals as well as collectively in the universe. And Dhishakti means basically wisdom, judging right from wrong, discretion, making the right call. All this comes from the Dhishakti. All this is Jupiter, Brahaspati. So when Jupiter is in Atichara, and this has happened since March or April, I think from April this has been happening, and it will happen for another year. This is a long phenomenon this time, and this is a period that is conducive to unwise decisions by world leaders and people in power, business leaders, political leaders, etc. People will make some unwise moves that will destabilize things. So that is the larger macro context for what is happening in India. So that because of that, there'll be a sense of chaos. And if there was a more capable politician leading the opposition instead of Rahul Gandhi, that person could have taken advantage of this. That person could actually weaken Modi ji, because Modi ji is also a little vulnerable during this period. BJP is also a little vulnerable. But the thing is, fortunately for BJP, Rahul ji is the opposition leader, and his chart is even weaker. His time is even worse, much worse than Modi ji's and BJP's time. So I'm not really concerned that there is any danger to the BJP government, and Modi ji will basically remain strong. And moreover, next 3 months or so is a good time for them to do some aggressive stuff. This is a time when because after from October or so they will become a little weaker. So this is a period to get some aggressive agenda through, legislative agenda. So we will see Modi ji almost at his best in the next few months. I don't see any danger to him. And as far as Sri Dhankar ji is concerned, I don't know what transpired behind the scenes and what exactly he was thinking. But the thing is, it will turn out that he is the loser. It's not that BJP will really split or BJP government will fall. I don't see a danger to BJP or Modi ji in the coming months. Having said that, I want to make one more point. In Modi ji's first term itself, I made a prediction that he will win exactly 3 terms and he will not finish the third term. In the third term, he will transfer power to somebody else. So he will not contest the fourth elections, basically, fourth general elections. So I, even though the signals at this time are that Modi ji wants to complete his term and lead BJP in 2029 also, I still, when I look at Modi ji's chart and BJP chart, India's chart, I do think that he will not complete this term. He will basically, it is likely, if we look at his chart, he basically from 2014 till 20, I believe 2026, he is running the Dasha of Virgo in Chardasha. Kanya Rasi is Dasha. And if you take Kanya as Lagna, Lagna Lord Buddha is exalted in Lagna, the fifth Lord of power Shani is in Lagna. So there is a conjunction between exalted Lagna Lord and fifth Lord in the Lagna. That's a Maharaj Yoga. So exactly this period, 2014 till 2026, is the period when he was a Maharaja. But the thing is, in 2026 September, he will start the Tula Dasha, Tula Rasi Dasha. And from Tula as Lagna, he has a very strong 12th house. There are 4 planets in the 12th house, including 12th Lord Mercury. 12th is Moksha. 12th Lord Mercury and the Ketu, who's the Moksha Karaka. So this is a period of renunciation, sannyas, etc. So it is, and that Dasha will run for a few more years. But the thing is, it is likely that in 2026 to 2029 period, he will basically decide that he needs to he doesn't want to keep going for another 5-6 years. He will transfer power to somebody else, make that person the prime minister, and he will take kind of Rajagiriya sannyas and focus more. Either he can become president or something, because it's still possible that he can, because there is a yoga between 5th and 6th lords from Tula also. So it is possible that he will have some kind of power, but he will be more detached from things in that period. So I'm not saying, when I say that Modi ji will remain strong, I'm not saying that he will keep going till next elections. He is likely to basically give up power, but it will not be to Rahul Gandhi or opposition. It will be within BJP. Basically, if Modi ji steps down, the next prime minister will be from NDA and will be from BJP. And that can, the earliest it can happen is actually, one last point. The earliest it can happen is actually, even though it is unfathomable at this time, the earliest it can happen is 2026. And the latest it can happen is 2028. So sometime between 2026 and late 2028, and definitely before the 2029 elections, Modi ji is likely to step down in favor of somebody else voluntarily, not being forced out.
A recent entry in the name, whose name is getting very viral in the upper circles. We have always been saying कि chai wale ke baad गाय wala. We have been talking about Yogi Adityanath ji. But there's a new entry in the prime ministerial name that has been floating around, and this is being discussed by very serious people. He's world known. He's known for his straightforward talks, not mincing his words, and that is Jaishankar ji.
Yeah.
And remember, Amit Shah ji had once said that we can also have a prime minister from Tamil Nadu. At that point of time, the two names that came to our mind was Annamalai and Jaishankar ji. Now, Annamalai is not going to fight elections, so recently is announced, and he is going to take some other position in the structure. But what about Jaishankar ji? Jaishankar ji is doing a lot of good work, and his name has started floating from almost like 3 months. Couple of ministers that I know, they have been talking. Couple of bureaucrats and journalists, they have also been talking about his name, because he's somebody who gels also very well with Amit Shah, which is a big factor. I mean, the biggest factor in deciding a PM name. Ji.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, unfortunately, I don't have Jaishankar ji's chart. His birth data is birth time is not available. If I have it, I would love to look at his chart, because practically speaking, logically looking at it, he's a terrific candidate. He can, especially like you said, he gels well with Amit Shah ji, and he has a good understanding of international dynamic. And in the next few years, lot of mess is going to happen in the world. Trump or no Trump, even if Trump is replaced, still this is a very unstable period for the world. 2026, 2025, 2026 are crazy. So it will be good to have somebody who has an understanding of the international dynamic, and he's very well spoken, very well respected. He would make a great sense logically, but I don't have his horoscope. Among the BJP leaders whose charts I have studied, which is Gadkari ji, Nitin Gadkari ji, Amit Shah ji, Devendra Fadnavis ji, Annamalai ji, and Yogi ji, Two, I almost rule out. I don't expect Amit Shah ji to become the Prime Minister. And Nitin Gadkari ji, I don't expect him to be the Prime Minister. Those two I have already ruled out. Other three, Yogi ji, Annamalai ji, and Fadnavis ji, they all have potential to be Prime Minister one day. But Fadnavis ji still has lot more time. And Annamalai ji also has even more time. He first has to become the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. And even that, building the party and becoming the Chief Minister is still years away. But he will become that, and he may even become Prime Minister one day. So those two we can leave aside. So based on the charts I have seen, the best candidate is Yogi ji. And Yogi ji's chart does have great potential for high levels of political power. And just like Modi ji is a highly detached person. He has 4 planets in the Moksha Sthana, in the 12th house of renunciation, including Karaka of renunciation, Ketu, and the Lord of that house, Buddha, who's exalted. So he's a man of high renunciation. And same with Yogi ji. But he has great Rajogas in his chart. And the next few years, 2026, 27, 28, exactly the times when I expect Modi ji to basically possibly give up prime ministership, those are awesome times for him. Those are amazing times for him. So my best call at this time, without having Jaishankar ji's chart, is that Yogi ji will be the next prime minister. But I'd love to see Jaishankar ji's chart if it is available. See, if Jaishankar ji is the prime minister, Amit Shah ji continues to be the home minister, and Yogi ji comes in as one of the top ministerial posts. And then if Shashi Tharoor, for example, replaces Jaishankar ji as the foreign minister, that will be a great administration, logically speaking, not astrologically. So I would love to see Jaishankar ji's chart, but I will still, without having that chart, my best guess is Yogi Adityanath. And one thing is for sure, whether he becomes prime minister or not, this is the next few years are a great time for him. He will rise like anything, and he will basically be a fearless leader. And one more thing, there is this one quality in Yogiji's chart. Wherever he is, he doesn't calculate. He's not trying to basically win some popularity contest, or
Peace, please,
he's not,
people.
yeah, he's not trying to appease people. He's not calculating, if I do this, I will stay in power for 10 years. If I do this, I may have to go after 3 years. If he thinks this is the right thing for the country, he will be at peace going after 3 years. He will do the right thing for the country. So he is a fearless leader. And my gut feeling is, in the next few years, given that India is destined to rise, and given that this is a very crazy period for the world, in the 2027, 28 to 2030, 2031 time frame, we'll have somebody who's gutsy, who's fearless, who will basically go with his gut feel and do the things that may seem crazy on the surface, but that will work out great for the country. Because if a country has to rise from the current stature of a middle level power to a superpower, you have to be gutsy. So Yogi ji really fits the bill with respect to that kind of a profile that India needs in that time period. And it seems like India will get in that time period based on India's chart. So that is why I'm more inclined to believe that it may be Yogi ji. But one more thing, if Yogi ji comes to power, he will not be in power as long as Modi ji did. He will basically, this is the kind of chart that has power in the next few years, but in early to mid 2030s, he will just go away from all this. Even if he remains as UPCM, at that time, he will just walk away from this. So basically, next few years, he will rise and he will do some great important things for his state or country, but he will just disappear. He will just go and focus on his spiritual life after the big war that I'm talking about, from early to mid 2030s. So
Something
my
like the great
my
kings used to do in our ancient times. After they have done their
yes,
duty, they would just retire and
go
hand
to
over the reins to
Vanaprastha. Yeah, they will go to
one.
Vanaprastha, and they'll go to Vanaprastha. Here he will go back because he's a Mathadhishwar. So he will go back to the Matha and focus on the Matha's activities. And this is a man, whatever he is doing, whether he is ruling a state, whether he is ruling a country, or whether he is basically doing nothing, just a Mathadish, he has the same attitude. So India needs somebody of that nature and stature in the uncertain times that are coming our way.
But coming to the trade war, India US trade war. That is something very
Yeah.
important, and it's happening like it's just the talk of the town. Where is it heading? Before I come back again to the Indian talk, Ji.
Yeah. See, Donald Trump is, as I said in a previous video, he's a Rakshamsa Sambhut. He's basically somebody born with his sun and moon, soul and mind are in Rakshamsa, in the Shashtamsa chart, which shows your subtle impulses, basically subtle karma, karmic impulses. So such people are usually very strong, and normal human beings cannot fight them, but they will have a very bad end in the end. And also, such people take down the places that they govern. Like, for example, Ravan took down Lanka. So he is, in general, whether Kamala Harris won or Donald Trump won, in US was destined to become weaker in this period. In general, from 2001 onwards till mid 2030s, this is a time of slow decline for United States of America. So, and this period after 2020, it had to be accelerated. And particularly in the second half of 2020s, it had to be further accelerated and lock horns with China and basically force an avoidable world war. So, Trump is basically, he, my assessment is, he doesn't have a clear strategy. He doesn't know exactly what he's doing, but he's so strong that people around him cannot basically talk sense into him. He, all this tariff war, some people may think that he's playing 5D chess, 4D chess, 6D chess, etc. He's not even playing 2D chess. He's basically he people think that he's a very smart person. Yes, he politically, he proved to be very smart, but if you look at his businesses, this man inherited many millions, tens or more than $100 million from his parents, from his father, and some analysts say that had he put it in index funds at that time, he would have got much more return than what he ended up basically getting through all his businesses. He had multiple bankruptcies. He basically he even apart from bankruptcies of companies that he owned, entities he owned, he himself was close to ruin. And Apprentice show, the TV reality show, saved him basically financially. So this is not a very financially smart man. But the thing is, unfortunately, he thinks that nobody knows finances like him. So he is making some bad bets, and if he just pushes to the brink and walks back, things may be fine. But the times are such, the second half of this year is such that he may just go to the brink and not walk back, basically not blink back, and it may result in an economic disaster. I hope that I'm wrong, but there's a possibility that this whole tariff, because he will, at the flip of a hat, he will just change the number. One day it is 25, another day it is 15, another day it is 50, another day it is 175. There's no logic behind this, there's no science behind this. So this is a very unstable person, a person with moon who shows mind eclipsed by Ketu, afflicted by Ketu within like a degree, half degree, I believe, and he's in deep Gandanta. He's like debilitated. So his mind is very weak. His Buddha is the actual logical intelligence. He's strong. His Buddha is in own sign, and he's with Lagna Lord's son. So he's not dumb. He's not an idiot like people think he is. He's a smart guy. But the thing is, his sun and moon are taking a big beating. Sun by Rahu and moon by Ketu, the affliction. So he thinks that he needs to prove. He's very he has a very low self-esteem. Even though he may act very proud, etc., a very low self-esteem. He's always trying to prove to people, deep insecurity. So this will force him. And unfortunately, the dasha he's running is Guru Mahadasha. And as I said earlier, Guru is an Atichara. So this doesn't help him do the right things, do the wise things. And moreover, from his moon in Scorpio, Vishtika Rasi, the current Jupiter transit is in the 8th house. So this Ashtama Guru transit is not good for him. So the current time is not good for him. And the other thing is, based on the Rasi chart, Ashtotri Dasha works better than Vimshotri for him, and based on that, he's already running a bad Dasha. But the thing is, in the Dasyamsa chart, based on the Dasha and Dasyamsa chart of career, he is still running Rahu Dasha. Rahu is the fifth lord of power. So that has been running since 2015 or so. So actually maybe a little earlier. So, but the thing is, it is coming to an end at the end of this year. So next year is even worse for him. First half of next year is even worse for him. So he's on the verge of a bad period. He's already on a verge of a partially bad period. But the thing is, he has a lot of blessings. See, one thing I can say is, apart from the weakness in the chart, he had the blessings of a lot of spiritual people. A lot of Hindus prayed for him in the last 8 years. And I personally know many powerful priests with some spiritual power, who are actually taking Sankalpa in his name, just like Modi ji, because people thought that he is America's Narendra Modi and he is a great friend of India. But the thing is, that person doesn't care about anybody other than him, or maybe his sons, maybe. So this is a very self-centered person, and very person who has some intelligence, smartness, but not wisdom. Jupiter is not that strong in his chart. But the thing is, Mercury is strong. So his calculations are good, but his mind is very weak and insecure, and that forces him to make some hasty decisions and put the logic aside. And also, he's a very unwise person. So some of the protection he was getting because of the prayers from so many people, so many powerful people over the last 8 years. I'm afraid because of his anti-India narrative, etc. It will be basically, even if he comes around and now says India is great and makes a good deal, changes 25 to 15% or something, still I think he lost a lot of goodwill with people who have spiritual power. So I think that lack of protection is coming around the same time when he needs even more protection, because from next year onwards, it's a worse time for him. His bad time already was running from 2020, but it was still medium basically, because in Dasyamsa he was still running a great Dasya. For next year, it's a bad time. So this person is unnecessarily creating mess for him. And in the end, like I said, people with that kind of rakshasams, the kind of end they deserve and usually get, unfortunately, he may be forcing it on himself. And as far as India is concerned, see, some countries will coalesce together against him and not really bend to his pleasure. They will make deals amongst themselves and frustrate him, because he was expecting, when he came up with this Liberation Day idea, he thought that every country will just queue up and make good deals with him. But the thing is, you don't really have a lot of good deals. So I think a lot of countries will just play hardball. And as far as India is concerned, I think India should and will, because if we look at India's annual charts and the Navamsa, which shows relations with other countries, this is a year when India will have excellent relations with most countries. So it is good to basically make deals with many other countries, like we did with UK recently. India did with UK. Similarly, there are various other advanced countries. Make deals with other countries, make good trade deals. And another thing is, Trump hates the BRICS coalition. He basically the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa coalition. So India should basically play. India should not. See, one thing is, because Jupiter is in Atichar, this is a time when there is a lot of chaos happens, lot of turbulence happens. But this is not the time for the right alignments for the long term. So this is a time to tease out various alignments. This is not a time to basically make clear-cut decisions. So what India should do is, don't clearly align with US, make Trump happy, and desert BRICS. At the same time, don't completely basically say I'm with BRICS and screw Quad. Engage with both Quad, engage with BRICS, and maybe even they are talking about just RIC, Russia, India, China. So make that Russia, India, China coalition strong. But I always maintain and still maintain, in the end, Russia and China are not going to win the coming war. It's going to be basically India-US coalition. So India and US are meant for long-term partnership. But the thing is, you have to play all your cards. You don't have to show your cards now. This is a bad time to show your cards. So I expect that this will be drawn out several months. This will not be like a few days and then you make a deal. Even if there is a short-term deal in terms of the percentages in trade, etc., in terms of which bloc India is more aligned with, BRICS or Quad, it will basically drag on for several more months and perhaps even into late 2026. But the thing is, one thing I'm confident is by the end of 2026 or early 2027, it will be clear what are the lines, because as this trade war settles down and world economies are weakened and readjusting, basically the equilibrium is destroyed and new equilibrium is being established. At that time there'll be losers, there'll be winners, and there'll be some clear motivations to basically go after some enemies. So at that time there'll be clear coalitions. Until then, somebody may say, oh, US and Russia will become friends now, but again they may become enemies, again they may become friends. See, for example, recently, a couple of days back, Trump tweeted that the nuclear capable, so what are they called, submarines, nuclear submarines are being moved to close to Russia because of something stupid that Medvedev said. This kind of things, let's not overreact. This is a time when people do silly stuff, and it will play into something disastrous in the long term, but nothing disastrous is going to happen right now. So India should basically not make hasty calls. Play all the cards. Keep the option open to be aligned with China. Keep the option open to be aligned with Russia. Keep the option open to be aligned with Israel. Keep the option open to be aligned with France, and of course US. And keep all the options open. Play nice with everybody, but don't bend down to anybody. Play nice, but basically be firm and see how it plays out. And in the end, by the end of 2026, India will be placed in a good position. India will clearly know who the friends for the long term are, who the enemies for the long term are. So until then, let's not be swayed by the
Who do you
temporary
think will
happenings.
be, Perina, who do you think will be our real enemies, real friends and real enemies going forward from here?
See, at this stage, it may not be 100% clear, but number one enemy is China. Number one enemy is China, and it will become clear in a few years. Some people right now may be thinking that, oh, Hindi Chini bhai bhai, like in 1950s and 1960s. China is the biggest enemy, and around the 2030 time frame, India and China will be directly confronting each other. And Russia is a great friend. Take as much as you can from them, but the thing is, in the end, Russia will pick China ahead of India. When it is India versus China, Russia will be on China's side, unfortunately. So Russia is an unintentional enemy, basically somebody who's not an enemy but aligned with an enemy. China is the biggest enemy, and biggest friend in my assessment is Israel, and then US will also be a good friend. US will be on our side, even though Trump may be saying all this. See, as I said earlier in the show, Trump may say you are the worst person in the world today, and 5 days later he may say, "Oh, I was just kidding. That he's the best person in the world." So he is that kind of unstable. See, he's a stable genius. So stable geniuses can be very, very. They can flip flop a lot.
Okay. Coming to, you said China is going to be our biggest enemy. China has
Yes.
been trying to make our government fall. We have seen how Rahul
Yes.
Gandhi in the parliament has been trying to play Chinese cards, in fact, which Jaishankar ji
Yes.
exposed very well. Any threat to
Yeah.
our government as of now, currently, apart from the one we discussed, threat in terms of assassinations, in terms of internal war, or anything like that?
This see next few years are a crazy time for India. As I said, long term India will grow, but growth does not come easily. Basically, when you're growing, it's not like everybody will come and say, yeah, grow, we'll help you. They will try to stop you. So people may be scared of US deep state, but the thing is, it is really, rather than the European or US deep state, it is the Chinese deep state that is of more concern, and it is more opaque compared to US deep state. Of course, US deep state is not transparent, but there is some level of transparency. But Chinese deep state is extremely opaque, and it is very powerful, and their government, deep state, military, everything is one in China. So they will, as China becomes more and more powerful, and they see themselves as a direct competitor to US, and they may even fancy themselves as the current number one in the world, not US. China will meddle more in India's politics and India's internal affairs in the coming years. And this year and next year are crazy. Chinese, and it does seem like Rahul Gandhi ji is playing the Chinese cards more these days than even the US cards. So this will continue. They may find other players in the Indian politics and maybe even within BJP that will basically be anti-India and anti-BJP government, and this will happen. So I will not say there are no threats. There will be threats in the coming year and a half or so, but the threats will be contained. And one more thing is, when it is somebody's time to rise, the stars cooperate. So you will basically be pushed to the extreme, but at the end you will be rescued. So these are times like that. See, when it is time for your fall, or whether it is time for you to suffer for another 100 years, somebody like Prithviraj Chauhan and Shivaji, they may have a lot of victories, but basically in a crucial moment, they may fall, they may lose. But the thing is, this is not, those times are gone. This is a time when India will rise. This is a time when Hinduism, Sanatan Dharma will rise and establish itself as a strong voice in the world. So at these times, all these threats and challenges will basically collapse in the end. They will seem to succeed till the end, but in the end, it will just fizzle away. It will just wither out. So I will say there are threats. We have to be vigilant. We need really savvy politicians leading the government and leading various operations like various spy agencies. All these have to be very alert for all these influences, and also Indian government has to be ruthless in dealing
Do
with
we have
China's
any
soft power.
chances of having a civil war kind of a thing in our country? Because it's being tried over and again, over and again. They're trying to have a civil war, especially the Hindu-Muslim thing. Do you
Yes.
think there are chances of that in coming months or years?
Next 2 years are basically, we may go on the precipice of that kind of things, like the farmers protest. See, there are several fault lines within India. The Hindus versus Muslims, or majority versus minority is one fault line. Haves and have nots, rich and poor is another fault line, and upper caste versus lower caste is another fault line. So all these fault lines, whether they're real or imagined and basically enhanced in the minds of people in the last few centuries. Bottom line is, these fault lines do exist in our society, and all these fault lines will be exploited by China ruthlessly in the coming 1.5 year or 2 years. So, but the thing is, I don't expect a civil war in India. I expect strong efforts to push towards a civil war. The fortunate thing for India is, given the power, given the support that is coming from outside, and given the financial situation in the whole world, and given the chaos, the sense of something is not right that is at the back of everybody's mind these days, given all this background, any savvy politician could have been used by China very well to basically create what you are talking about. But fortunately for India, it is Rahul Gandhi, who basically is not that smart. He's relatively a stupid person. So that will be a blessing. So there will be strong efforts, but all the great opportunities will be basically wasted. I'm not concerned that there will be a civil war, but again, within the country as well as outside, the government has to be alert and basically uh, any challenges that are coming out, they have to be immediately neutralized, and you have to make some pragmatic calls sometimes in the long term interest.
I want to ask something, Periana. The Bharat has been facing so many challenges, so many invaders, so many enemies. What is saving Bharat? No, we've had so many traitors, and we are shrinking. When people say Hinduism is not going anywhere, is the oldest civilization, but I feel that's closing your eyes when you see an ostrich. You just bury your head in the sand because see, we've been shrinking. We were there till Iran, Persia, and other Middle Eastern countries, and
Yes.
also on Southeast Asian side. We had Malaysia, Cambodia, Thailand. All were Hindus, different forms of Hinduism, maybe Buddhism and other. We have been shrinking, which people are not understanding. But even what is left, I'm saying what is
Mhm.
left after such a vast empire, what is left is very little. people say there is something which is saving India. How do you see
Yes.
this? But somehow I feel very disheartened at times.
See, there are both positive and negative sides to this. Basically, there is something to be concerned about and worried about and act towards. Also, there is something to take solace in. First, to be concerned about, as you said, Sanatan Dharma was basically spread out all the way from Iran to Cambodia, Thailand, etc. So Hinduism as known today, let me not use the word Sanatana Dharma, but current Hinduism basically was in power in this vast land, but now it has shrunk. The boundaries have shrunk. Even though the mainland, the center, the core is still Hindu, majority Hindu. So that is one thing. But I'll go even deeper. What I will say, even broader. The way I look at it, Sanatana Dharma was spread across the world in distant past. When I take the aboriginal cultures of like Australia, New Zealand, Australia, Europe, etc., the devatas that they worshipped are close to our devatas. So the kind of rituals they had are close to our rituals, and the basic philosophy of those religions is not self-centered. It is, you don't say that God created the world for the benefit of, for the enjoyment of man. Man is the master of universe. No, we believe that God created the entire universe. We are a tiny part of it, and we are basically, even before eating food, you basically pray to God and say, "This is Brahman. This is Brahman. This is Brahman. Brahman is eating Brahman," and you respectfully consume the food. And if you look at Native Americans in US, they would kill a buffalo and do prayers in front of it and then eat it. So this attitude that God is the master of the universe and you're just a tiny part of it, and you responsibly enjoy God's givings, and basically whatever you do is God's offering. This attitude is Sanatana Dharma to me, not worshipping a specific name or a specific form. That Sanatana Dharma was across the world, and it has been disappearing slowly, especially in Kali Yuga, in Ghora Kali Yuga, across the world. But the thing is, there is, in my opinion, there is something powerful about this land of Bharat, the land that contains Kashi, the land that contains uh, Arunachalam, the land that contains Ujjain, the land that contains Tirupati. This land, the land that contains most of the Jyotirlingas, this land has something powerful in it. And I strongly believe, and I actually know in a couple of cases, that there are some beings, some rishis and siddhas and yogis who are not seen, who are meditating inside caves, under hills, under the ground, in water, that you may not see. They are meditating, and they are basically praying for Sanatan Dharma, and this has been happening for hundreds of years or thousands of years. And there are rishis who are playing in the space, who are basically, who are praying for the establishments of Sanatan Dharma. And the thing is, based on India's own chart, long-term chart, last 1,000 years were a time of terrible challenge. But as I keep saying, India is on the verge of, India and Sanatan Dharma are on a verge of basically a rise. So to put it shortly, this is basically indestructible way of life. This is not just a faith, or this is not just a book. This is not just one person's revelations. This is basically realization that many had within, and all of us can have within, if we basically go through one of the several available paths. And Sanatana Dharma is a collection of all those paths for realizing the reality and realizing our relation with the universe, with God. And this is accessible to all, and this will become again accessible to all. And there are some powers that we cannot see that are protecting, and this protection will become even more in the coming years. So the borders may shrink, but Sanatana Dharma will never go away. All the aboriginal faiths, which were offshoots of Sanatana Dharma, which were basically variations within Sanatana Dharma, they are all gone. But this core Hinduism that remained in India is not going to be destroyed. The best chance to destroy it was a few hundred years ago. when the Muslim emperors completely conquered India. But the thing is, even then they could not get rid of it. Now, I'm not saying that the effort is not there. I'm not saying that we should not be vigilant, but the best time to do this was gone. Now, this is actually a time of revival of Sanatan Dharma. And in coming years, Sanatan Dharma will actually spread to areas where it was lost. Not only to the mainland where it has existed as Hinduism right now, but it will actually spread through the entire globe in the coming for the rest of this century. So I'm optimistic that way, but that doesn't mean we should not be vigilant and we should let the guard down. We have to fight for it. The Dharma
And
Yuddha.
what will happen to the Abrahamic religions?
See, I will say something unpopular. People want to believe that Abrahamic religions have no virtue in them. If you take some of the core tenets of Abrahamic religions, there is some virtuous parts in them also. But the thing is, there is also a lot of troublesome parts. So if you get rid of the troublesome parts, and if you basically focus on the virtuous parts and slightly adjust some basic ideas and slightly retune some things, it can come under the umbrella of Sanatan Dharma. So basically, what I expect in the coming couple of decades is that as practiced and understood today, the Abrahamic religions will basically be transformed. They will change, and people who are following those religions will follow an understanding that is basically modified and more consistent with Sanatan Dharma, more tolerant, and more basically humble, more respectful towards the universe, towards the nature, and that kind of variation will come whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, and those will basically take root across the world. It's not like everybody will convert to Hinduism. Because I use the word Sanatan Dharma instead of Hinduism. Hinduism is one major way within Sanatan Dharma, but Sanatan Dharma has many other aspects of it. So basically, these religions will be converted to things that are consistent with Sanatan Dharma and exist in the larger umbrella, and world will be more peaceful. But this is not in the next decade. This will take the next few decades. That is my long-term assessment.
And it will also go through a wave of atheism, because what is happening is, why I asked this question is,
That is what I had at the back of my mind first, but I wanted to make that point, but I went into other things. Yes, this will happen after atheism is threatening to replace Abrahamic religions completely. That is what will force them to become, and atheism will be more at peace with the basic tenets of Sanatan Dharma and Hinduism. That is what will force the Abrahamic religions to take some aspects of Hinduism and integrate them and basically become a slightly transformed version. You will still have Jesus Christ, you will still have Muhammad and Allah, but the thing is, you will have slightly different understanding of what they taught, what they meant, and how to follow them, how to obey them. So that, you are absolutely right. I think I always said atheism is the biggest threat to all religions in the coming in the next for the rest of the century, and Hinduism is best positioned to withstand
counter
the onslaught of atheism, and Christianity and Islam will almost perish, and then they will reinvent themselves, taking inspiration from Buddhism and Hinduism.
because what has happened is, I've met couple of students from engineering and these backgrounds, mostly being Hindus only. So like when I ask them, like, what do you believe, and it's a mixed class of children, it's not just one or two. A lot of them have started becoming atheist. And when they say atheism, I become very happy, because in Hindu, when you go to Vedas, you go to Upanishads, atheism is a part of our culture only.
See,
You
I said
believe in God,
earlier,
you become a
the
part of.
current
Hmm.
current various practices in Hinduism are different subsets of Sanatan Dharma. Similarly, being atheistic, but being respectful towards the rest of the universe and being a loving member of the society, helping others, that is basically, you can eventually find God that way also. Even if you don't believe in God, you can find God. So in our tradition, atheism is not frowned upon. As a matter of fact, if you read a great book called Raja Yoga by Swami Vivekananda. It's called just Raja Yoga. It's basically, it has a first half is a commentary on Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and then there are a lot of other teachings. There, he specifically says, I forget the exact words. This is not verbatim. I'm just paraphrasing it. He says it is being a sincere and sincere, responsible and honest atheist is better than being a hypocritical believer in God. So the thing is, atheism is not frowned upon in Hinduism. We can actually see people talk about religions digesting other religions, right? People are worried about Hinduism being digested. But the way I look at it, Hinduism and the larger Sanatan Dharma have the capability to digest everything else. They can digest Islam, they can digest Christianity, they can digest atheism also. So my expectation is atheism will challenge a lot of religions in coming times, and then atheism will basically will gel well with Vedanta. So more people will get into Vedanta and some of the more intellectual aspects of Hinduism, and also some of the ritualistic aspects of Hinduism will be understood in an intellectual way. People will understand the basis of it, the why of it rather than what of it, and some of these will be more liberalized. Like there are a lot of things that people stick to for no reason because a lot of thumb rules have been added and they lost their meaning in time, but still people follow them. So the meaning of things will be, as atheism becomes the biggest challenge, people will question the meaning of everything, the purpose of everything. And Hinduism has a lot of the stuff genuinely. So when real and meaningful Hinduism is basically well established in India, atheism will be at peace with it, and that will create a model for the rest of the world to rediscover their own roots. For example, if you go to Europe to shun, let's say, Islam or Christianity, they can take their pagan roots, and some of those are consistent with atheism, some of those are consistent with Sanatan Dharma. They can adopt those and come up with a new interpretation of what Muhammad taught, or what Prophet Muhammad taught, or what Jesus taught, and then basically that will become the mainstream religion in those areas in coming decades. And then the bottom line is that will be better for the world. World will be a more peaceful place.
Yes. Perina, would you like to add anything more to our political discussion? Yeah, this was a little, we went away a little.
Yes, yes.
Side. Yeah.
Well, the next year and a half will be chaotic. Don't expect like a big world war or anything at this time, because some people were saying that also. This is not a time of such things, but this is a time of crazy things that will lead to that in the long term. So nevertheless, people who are actually following the news, they'll be very nervous, they'll be very tense. There'll be a nagging feeling that something is not right, something is falling apart in the world and in the country, wherever you are, whether you are in US or India or UK or France. That sense of something is wrong and something is going down, falling apart, will be there at the back of the mind throughout this decade. And particularly this year and next year are like that. This is the nature of those years. These are not normal years. So just hang in there. Trust God. God has a plan.
The last question, political question. There's
Yes.
been a lot of talk about the NRIs in US. You're also staying in US only. That the way the Trump is going and the way the things are churning, economics is going down,
Mhm.
money is becoming scarce, resources are becoming scarce. The NRIs are at the biggest threat.
Mhm.
Um, how do you see that in general?
That's a great question. See, many years down the road, I'm not sure. But for the next 3, 4 years, I'm not concerned that there'll be anything that NRIs have to be worried about. So like for example, things that happened in some African countries where there were some NRIs that were doing well, but they had to basically leave everything and go. That kind of situation is unlikely to come to US in the next 3, 4 years at least. And then the thing is, after 2030, there'll be a new equilibrium in the entire world. So whatever seems to be the mainstream right now may not remain. So I don't advise people to make any drastic decisions at this time. Uh, NRIs in US will be US, and several European countries will be fine. But the thing is, if you are inclined towards moving back to India, this is actually a pretty good time, because one thing I can guarantee you is, almost guarantee you is, because nobody can guarantee except God. One thing I can almost guarantee you astrologically is, US is going to slowly decline. It is not going to be destroyed. It is basically, it will become like UK became in 1940s and 50s, from a superpower to a mid-rung power. So US will have a slow decline, and some of it will be shooting themselves in the foot, shooting ourselves or themselves in the foot. Basically, some bad decisions made by leaders, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. So US will be in a decline, and India will undoubtedly keep rising in the world, politically, militarily, and financially. So India, future is India. So it's not a bad idea to go back to India if you're already thinking of, but you don't have to go in desperation thinking that in US basically there'll be chaos, that NRIs will no longer be tolerated. That is not coming anytime soon, in my opinion.
Because a lot of people have been talking, and I've also seen the attacks
Yes,
happening
yes.
on the students,
Yes,
especially the Indian
see,
students.
isolated incidents will always happen. Because some section that Trump pacified and used for his rise is basically anti-immigrant in general, not just anti-India or anti-anybody. So, and they are pretty racist. So there will be some tension against NRIs, but in general, NRIs as a community will do well. And the other thing is this US-India tensions. These are just temporary. And the thing is, people may think that, oh, 25% tariff, it sounds like a big number, but the thing is, Pakistan is supposed to be a great friend right now. What are they paying? Not that less. I think 19% or something. So and moreover, these numbers will change at the drop of a hat. So but one thing I can tell you is this is all transient. 2025 and 2026 will see a lot of temporary nonsense. Don't be swayed by it. Just keep calm, just chill, and there'll be clarity by the end of next year. But India and US will continue to be good friends for the rest of the decade, and this friendship will actually grow towards 2030, and NRIs can play a big role in that. Of course, right now they are a passive community, but I hope and expect that they will play a bigger role towards the end of this decade.
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग जी। थैंक यू सो मच पेरियाना फॉर जॉइनिंग। जाने से पहले सभी व्यूअर्स से रिक्वेस्ट है, पेरियाना हैज अ चैनल एंड आल्सो अ वेबसाइट। आई विल पिन द लिंक्स ऑफ बोथ ऑफ देम इन द just at the top of the chat where you comment. Please like, subscribe and share him also. And अगर आप like, subscribe and share my channel also, अगर आप contribute करना चाहते हैं तो नंबर और यूपीआई स्क्रीन के ऊपर है। आप फीडबैक देना चाहते हैं, मुझसे जुड़ना चाहते हैं, इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर करना चाहते हैं, पर्टिकुलर शो पेरियाना से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहते हैं, तो सभी के सभी लिंक्स डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में। इसी के साथ जय हिंद, जय श्री राम, हर हर महादेव।
जय श्री राम, हर हर